Welcome to episode number 2 of the Activate Your Soul Potential podcast. I am your host, Tia Marie, and the topic for today, the title of today's chat is Power is Intoxicating, Self-Belief Tips for Soul-Led Entrepreneurs. I'm really liking this one already. This conversation is going to be super powerful for you. Self-belief tips for soul-led entrepreneurs. What does that mean? I want to start by asking you a question. Why do they call crazy people crazy? Like, really sit and think about it. Why do you call crazy people crazy? Why do I call crazy people crazy? Well, I will tell you why I think people are crazy. When I see people actively believing in realities that just don't serve them or don't make sense to me or seem really like against what I would perceive as natural divine intelligence, right? Like, there's this thing that happens when you become really focused on building up internal structure and understanding your true identity and voyaging and journeying on like wisdom and internal insight, and you stop listening to the collective narrative to tell you what it is to think. You start to become quote unquote crazy, right? Like your ideas are kind of a bit crazy. The ways that you see life is maybe a little bit wild. It's not normal, right? So it's crazy, quote unquote. But then what happens is you start to look around you and you realize that like the things that other people are enrolling in, how they're investing their time, how they're spending their emotions, the ways that they limit their opportunities, the stories they tell themselves about themselves, the way that they, engage in outrage and, just all of this, what seems to me to be perceived as like absolute nonsense, really is what looks crazy. And I love this metaphor, this question, because it really leads back to the topic of today's chat, which is like, we think people are crazy. Like, we call people crazy who believe in things that we don't believe, right? It all comes down to self-belief when we're talking about magnetism, when we're talking about internal states of power. The truth is that people who are highly magnetic, people who can bring you into their world, people who can elicit emotions from you, can get you to really buy in, right? To buy into their reality, to buy into their paradigm. They can do that because they believe in it 100% without wavering, without self-doubt, and without fact, sometimes even without truth. It doesn't matter. This is the interesting mechanism behind self-belief and magnetism. And the way that we're kind of forming this conversation or directing this conversation is, as always, to tap back into the idea of the soul-led entrepreneurship or the soul-led creator or the person who is living in service to actualizing their soul potential. It takes a concentrated, almost delusional amount of self-belief in order to shift your reality. You have to actually get to the point where you've decided that you are no longer going to believe certain things about yourself. You're going to step into a way of viewing your life, your opportunities, the outcomes differently so that you can move, behave, think, make choices in a different way and guide your life in that direction until you arrive to the place where you actually believe that it's true. It's called creating without proof. There are a couple of things that I've always known in my life, and I've known this as a child. One of them was that I was multidimensional. One of the things that I saw when I was very young was, and I was aware of this on many different planes through kind of imagination and visions and internal musings, like, the deep thought mechanism of little Tia was really strong and always has been strong. And at a very young age, I realized and had a lot of kind of wild insight about the fact that realities was malleable, right? Or were malleable, that I could be this version of me perhaps in this moment of this life, but it's possible that there was a different version of me that existed on a different dimension somewhere else. And, maybe I could even just open my eyes one moment and wake up and be in a completely different life. I had thoughts like that when I was like 7 years old. The other thing that I always knew about myself was that I could believe whatever I wanted. I used to think about this when I was really young, and I would think to myself, well, if I can believe whatever I want, because I can, right? Like I can sit here and say to myself, well, the sky is red, right? I could make myself believe that. Devoid of science, devoid of proof, devoid of, what I could physically see with my human eyes, devoid of experience, all of that. Like I knew on some level that I could actually force forward a belief system in me that could allow me to believe anything. And so I would ask myself, if I can believe whatever I want, then why should I believe this? And this is an awareness that I think activated itself at me at a very young age, because I grew up in a fundamentalist Christian home and in a fundamentalist Christian environment that was extremely um, constrictive, really judgmental, lots of rules, very stifling. It was a very stifling environment for me. And I used to listen to the things that people would say, and the leaders and the adults, and, the ways that I felt engaged in this religion. I would think to myself, like, well, why should I believe this? And it's a really powerful question to ask yourself, because you should believe in things that will get you to where you actually desire to go. Not all beliefs, not all paradigms, not all truths need to be true for you. And so, kind of having this as a deep-rooted internal remnant, remnant of wisdom that I carried forward with me on a soul level, I've come back to the point in my life where I realize from like a mechanical, sort of like technical based perspective of why these things are really important to know when we are guiding ourselves forward to fully transform and utilize the natural gifts that we came here with. The realization is that you have a lot of massive power inside of you to create. And sometimes we create these like cloaks of invisibility, these cloaks of confusion, these cloaks of searching to shroud us from our from the moments in our lives that would compel us to step forward in full force in all of that self-belief, because we have to be able to back it up, not be for other people, right? We don't need to back up our beliefs on behalf of other people, but we need to back them up and ourselves in our system. We have to have that internal support in order for us to take a conceptual belief and make it an embodied belief, make it a structure that is fully realized in our self-awareness. You can't get it wrong. You can't get it wrong. On a soul level, you cannot get it wrong. But you can lead yourself on side quests, and you can lead yourself in directions that are not in alignment with your soul's blueprint. That is absolutely possible. It happens all the time. I see it all the time. All learning on a soul level is adequate, but not all learning on a soul level is aligned. think of it this way. It is aligned in its adequacy, but it is not always aligned with your frequency, your potential. And so that's why living in service to soul potential is a very unique thread of self evolution, self-initiated evolution and transformation. It's quite different than a lot of the other presentations of transformation and personal evolution that I see out there. Confusion does not believe in itself. Think of it this way. Questioning is a form of alchemy. We question ourselves until we know. If you want to build confidence in your work, if you want to build confidence in your soul legacy, if you want to build confidence in your ability to charge the prices that you desire, to have the amount of clients that you want, to live the life that you want, to make big moves, big changes, you may find yourselves in states of questioning, is this the right next thing to do? How do I get there? Like I said, like really, like, do I believe in myself in this situation? And you have to also understand that confusion is not the same as asking questions with intention in order to build skill to get where you are going. When I was in my prior career as an executive chef, I would throw myself into situations all the time that I knew that I wasn't prepared for. So this was kind of like my career growth secret, was that if it felt scary, I would say yes to it. So I was like, if there was a bridge to jump off of, I would jump. I would grab it. Why? Because I knew that I would catch myself in the process, one. And two, I knew that I would build the skill that I needed to build within the process and the stress and the forced kind of like growth edge chaos that I put myself into. And I knew that I would come out on the other side, either having learned something or failed, or having built the confidence to realize that it turned out better than I could have even imagined. And what I learned in that process was that I am very adept at creating in chaos. And this over the years became something that was very comfortable to me on some level, especially when it came to kind of crafting or whipping up delicious dishes in highly chaotic, highly stressful environments inside of, high like white tablecloth fine dining restaurant environment. There's a lot of pressure, there's a lot of heat, there's a lot of people yelling at you, there's a lot of speed, there's we need it now, it's got to be incredible. It's your creativity that's going to squeeze it out, like, and birth it. It's all on you. Go, 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 go. And I would get into this place where I would just switch into this fluid flow mode of creation because my mind couldn't be a part of it in order for me to actually execute. And it wasn't even helpful for me to think beyond the next thing that I was going to do. I knew how to create delicious things, and I knew when I was pressed that I always would. And this kind of analogy or metaphor, I think, is a powerful reminder about helping ourselves out sometimes when it comes to creating in chaos, and realizing that if you spend enough time understanding the ingredients, if you spend enough time cooking, as the kids like to say now, let me cook, right? My son says that to me and it cracks me up. Then you end up in this place where you just know, and there is no more confusion. And I want to leave you with a couple tips for how you can train your subconscious thinking, your automatic sort of negative knee-jerk thought systems that happen when you are in states of pressure. And it's a little bit different than the way that I see a lot of people approaching organization, or what I would call like enhancement of our thought system. So the first tip that I want to leave you with is move beyond mindset work. Really move beyond mindset. Okay. Telling yourself that you are a version of yourself that you are not does not create confidence in your system. I built up confidence in my system by creating in chaos, by learning how to do it, by choosing to enter that field and building confidence, because every time I executed, I got stronger and stronger and stronger. So mantras and repeating things to yourself over and over and over, like if you can't move that into an embodied practice, if you're not learning from that consciously, it's not going to help your self-belief. The second thing I have to say is stop obsessing about shadow work and like cleaning up your ego. Stop saying things like, oh, that's just my ego. That's my ego response. Well, that's your ego. Like, change the definition of that in your system to become aware that the ego merely is a mechanism for self-realization. It is there to allow you to see yourself as separate as from the whole. And if you want to have an experience of your life that is unique and as individual as you are, I hope that you can value your separateness from the whole. I hope that you can value your self-realization. And to take that even further, accept that definition of your ego and learn how to engage in chosen, self-initiated cycles of learning and power by understanding that introducing higher frequency, like refreshing, more intelligent thinking into your system directly chosen by you, right? So it's different to say, I am a 7-figure business owner than it is to say, I choose to be a 7-figure business owner. Because if you are choosing something, you are applying and engaging your will, right? And your capacity as a creator. And then you can move into places where you're learning how to live up to that choice. Just like I was sharing that I chose to always jump. Anytime I was faced with a situation where I didn't know if I had the skill to execute, I would choose to go for it. Now, I want to say that my caveat to this is that over the years, that strategy alone was not enough. It actually put me into a lot of states of like really intense stress and overwhelm, because I didn't have the additional supporting systems of self-awareness and self-support that would allow me to take that choice and turn it into something consciously of use to my personal growth. And so it did end up, just that knee-jerk reaction to be like, oh yeah, let's do it. It wasn't always the best thing. But that skill, that fearlessness, was a great place to start. So choosing to engage in chosen self-initiated cycles of learning and power is an extremely important step to cultivating your self-belief. It's very important in these times, and I want to leave you with this, that we really look at the spiritual paradigms that we are engaging in, the spiritual systems that we're engaging in, and asking ourselves if certain aspects of the way that we're engaging with them and that they're being delivered are still relevant in the times that we are right now. We really are moving into phases where, elevated, accelerated technologies when it comes to personal growth and evolution are really needed. Simple, potent, clean, clear, speaking to the aspects of us that are true and capable, right? I want to leave you with information about my Divinios, so the Divine OS, the Divine Operating System, which is an incredible product that and membership and program where I'm releasing series of choice commands at a minimum of once a month. And this program, this content goes into explaining the intricacies of how we correct our relationship to the ego. It includes spatial audio with visual meditations that you can just pop your headphones on and listen to these choice command series on a ton of different topics like freedom, power, money, shapes, templates, forgiveness. I could go on and on and on. We have hundreds of choice commands inside of this product. And this is the one tool that I use every single day to move data through my system to keep my system clean and clear. It has helped me learn how to not only enhance my more intelligent thinking to activate the parts of me that understand my self-belief and sources of inner power, but also for me to kind of like move beyond these old systems of and views of looking at the way that we operate, looking at our operating system, looking at the mind, looking at how energy moves through our body, and really, package it up into something that is a really incredible, powerful daily tool for getting you where you want to go. So I will put the link in the show notes for this conversation. And if you're interested, you can always reach out to me directly at magic@sinatia.com, or you can find me on Facebook or on Instagram. Send me a message if you want to learn more, and you get access to Divinios Divine OS inside the calling as well. I look forward to hearing from you, and we'll see you in the next chat.